But first, new reporting from the Washington Post takes an inside look at how Donald Trump transplanted the chaos from his White House into his post-presidential life. Entitled How Trump Jettisoned Restraints at Mar-a-Lago and Prompted Legal Peril. It details how Trump surrounded himself with people actively trying to put him in a better mood. Quote, Natalie Harp, one of Trump's employees and a former host on the pro-Trump cable network One America News, often accompanies Trump on his daily golf outings, riding the course in a golf cart equipped with a laptop and sometimes even a printer to show him uplifting news articles, online posts, or other materials. On some quiet days, another aide, Molly Michael, who served as Trump's assistant in the White House, has called around to Trump's network of allies across the country, requesting that they dial the former president to boost his spirits with positive affirmations. In the 2 years since he left office, Trump has recreated the conditions of his own freewheeling White House, with all of its chaos, norm flouting, and catering to his ego with little regard for the law. Though few rules guide the life of a former president, Trump has exhibited a characteristic disinterest in following any of them.
Let's bring in the co-author of that remarkable behind-the-scenes account of Trump's post-presidential life, based on interviews with 23 people, senior national correspondent for the Washington Post, Ashley Parker. And Ashley, we always heard about chaos in the Trump White House, but there was General Kelly pushing back and fighting him. There was General Mattis pushing back, fighting him. Gary Cohn. There always seemed to be some people pushing back. This is just an absolutely breathtaking portrait that you all have fascinating or incredible journalism where there is no pushback, even on the smallest thing, no guardrails. Does this help explain why he got in the trouble that he got in with the documents?
It absolutely does, and that's something we really set out to do with this story. We've been following the documents scandal since really the very beginning, and we were trying with this to understand how something like that could be allowed to happen. And what we found, again, was that, as you just very eloquently laid out, that chaos, that freewheeling nature of the White House, as someone put it to us who studied White House chiefs of staff, that followed the former president to Mar-a-Lago, but with none of those limited guardrails, on steroids. So again, there were none of the career government officials who occasionally were able to help rein in things in the White House. None of those early chiefs of staff who tried to prevent that bad behavior. Down in Mar-a-Lago, the former president was and is surrounded by junior staff, by sycophants, with people whose sole purpose is really to, again, boost his mood, tell him what he wants to hear, and allow him to behave however he wants, posting things on Truth Social without following even basic protocols.
Yeah, and Mika, as we read the article and we're talking about it last night, the one thing that struck me so much was the fact that you have people who have worked for him for a very long time, who've just said, for the most part, he doesn't want anybody around him at all. Nobody around him at all that will provide even the slightest pushback. If you don't tell him anything other than the election was stolen from you, and yes, your NFTs are a great idea, and yes, everything is a great idea, he wants no part of you there.
Yeah, and you can see that. There's a quality, I mean, if there was quality, but you can definitely see something changing. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the quality control of the NFT is far different than Trump steaks or Trump water, right?
But whatever. I mean, it's hard to really discern. But Ashley, what I think is interesting is that with all the different legal woes that this former president has, legal challenges coming at him at 100 miles an hour, whether it's his tax returns, the documents, the January 6th committee, criminal referrals to the DOJ, what the DOJ might come up with there, what's going on in Georgia. You would think that main entertainment room at Mar-a-Lago would be filled with desks and phones and lawyers and people working on sort of his cases. And yet you say there's a lot of socializing still that happens there.
Right. You might expect, as you described, a sort of legal war room down there. But that's not at all how former President Trump spends his days. You know, he gets up, he makes some phone calls, often to people who the sort of responsible coterie of aides wish he was not calling, people who fuel his baseless conspiracy theories about the 2020 election being stolen. He watches TV, he scans the papers, and then often he will go out and he will play 18 or 27 holes of golf. When he comes in, he'll go to the office that they, painstakingly retrofitted in Mar-a-Lago to sort of resemble the Oval. And then he spends his nights at his club as a consummate host. He goes down, he has dinner, he often orders off of a special menu. He controls the music, just like he did at his rallies. But what he's not doing, again, is sort of buttoning up his behavior to try to deal with all of these legal challenges.
And Ashley, when you were talking about the office, there was such a vivid scene in the article about how the junior staffers were panicked that it might not be as grand as the Oval Office, and he'd get angry. And somebody referred to it as what, a Barbie dream house? They said it was a sad and pathetic scene.
That's right. He has very much tried to recreate the trappings of the presidency down at Mar-a-Lago. But he is a former president. As any former president will tell you, you can't recreate that. There's nothing like being president and that power you hold. But what Trump has managed to recreate is the chaos, the sycophancy, and that dangerous set of conditions that allows him to behave unchecked. And in this case, seems to have very clearly created yet another legal headache that was not a foregone conclusion in the form of his behavior with these documents.
Ashley, congratulations on this incredible piece of reporting, you and the others at the Post. Just incredible. And as always, it's a full portrait of the former president, the incompetence, the lack of self-awareness, the victimization, the self-pitying. But there's always with him one nugget, usually in almost any story, that gets right to his lack of character and the definition of a grifter. Please tell us the story surrounding Donald Trump trying to get the GSA, Government Services Administration, to pay for that office in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's a fantastic detail my colleagues unearthed. And basically, you get a little bit of a fund to set up your post-presidency, and the GSA does provide some money for all post-presidents to basically rent office space. And what Trump tried to do was get the GSA to pay for his office space in Mar-a-Lago, which essentially would have meant the GSA, the federal government, sending money to Trump's private club that he would ostensibly pocket as profit in perpetuity for the duration of his life. And it's worth noting that, again, this is somewhat, and it didn't surprise us, it's somewhat in line with behaviors he exhibited as president, where he would have the Secret Service stay at his hotels when they could and charge them exorbitant rates. And again, the GSA considered this request. They declined, and they are renting office space nearby in Florida.
All right, the Washington Post's Ashley Parker, thank you very much for your reporting.